where does evil come from?
It comes from a free will deciding to take a good gift that God has given us and twist it and use it in the wrong way.
But doesn't it say in Isaiah that all things come from God, both good and evil? Doesn't it say in Isaiah that earthquakes and deaths and evil come from him?
No, that the passage about good and evil coming from God, I think if you look at that passage more carefully, it's talking about the judgment of people that you have outlined very accurately.
Well, then,
comes from God. God judges evil, and you're right. The Old Testament gives us a record of how God judged the Philistines, the Canaanites, the Amorites. Yes.
So you're saying the Bible should be taken interpretively or literally?
Sir, every book you and I read, we interpret.
So it should be taken.
The question is, how do you interpret, right? And so I would plead with you, interpret the Bible the same way you interpret any book. Read in context, respect literary style. Ask who's the author, what's the audience, what's the intent of the author, who's the audience the author is addressing, and then interpret fairly.
But what about the revelation of Peter, which today is considered apocrypha, except in the Church of Ethiopia? But back then, several bishops, it was considered canonical, and several bishops even attested that it was most likely written by Peter himself, in which there is a verse which is actually very much contested among scholars today that says all people will go to heaven. It says in that verse that the people will look down and see the anguish of the sinners and ask God to forgive them, and God will forgive them out of the goodness of his heart. That's what most of my current thought here.
All right, that's good. Great point. All right, now, that's why it's important to study. How were the 27 New Testament books put together? Were they put together by one or two or three or four bishops? Were they put together at a council, like the Council of Nicaea, as Dan Brown argues in the Da Vinci Code? No. The New Testament books were not put together by a council or by a bishop or by a pope. The New Testament was put together by the universal church, and one of the criteria that was used was this book has to be acknowledged universally, not just by a little group of bishops somewhere. It has to be acknowledged universally as reliable and authoritative. Otherwise, it was not included in the New Testament.